Hello, everyone. Are you there? Am I here? Say hi if you're out there, or not. I'm not the boss of you. I'm welcoming you today to this beautiful Wednesday live stream that we have happening from 2 to 3:30 p.m. You're welcome to join us and make art, or just listen to us and have us on in the background so that we can keep you company. If you'd like to participate in the chat, you're welcome to do so, to say hi to me, ask questions, share images or links to creative things you're working on. All ages, all abilities welcome. We're happy to have you here. Just a reminder about safe space, just like the studio, as if we were in the studio space, except we're online. So we're asking you to be considerate and supportive and kind to one another, including being kind to yourself. We also want you to know that anything that happens here that makes you feel weird or strange or awkward, if I cross any boundaries or unintentionally say something that presses the wrong kind of button, please let me know. You don't have to feel uncomfortable here, and we certainly don't want you to. And also, I like to learn as well about how I can human more effectively. So let me know if anything like that happens here. You can either send me a message afterwards, or hey, Teresa, or if you feel like opening it up to conversation in the community, you can make a note of it in the comments, because I'm not the only one who has to learn. We all have to learn something sometime. Hi, Teresa. How are you doing? Of course, the other point is too, we ask folks who have been using or drinking to take a break from the live stream today and come back on another day when they haven't been using or drinking. And there's no judgment there at all. For us, it's just about knowing that we can communicate effectively with people and then we can be there for one another in the best way possible. And sometimes if folks are in an altered state, that can be difficult. And there's also the point of people using this time to connect and take care of themselves. Sometimes it's about harm reduction, or they're in that process of recovery. And I think all of us in some parts of our lives have been touched by the voice of addiction. We know how precious that journey is, and we always want to be supportive of folks who find themselves on that path and do what we can to help them move forward in whatever way feels right to them. But otherwise, we're here to create, connect, chat. Let me know what you're working on. Let me know how you've been doing this past week. There's a lot going on in the world, and a lot going on even in Oshawa, in the Durham region. I want to know how you're doing, and if the living room can do anything to help you have a better day. So Teresa, how's it going with you? What are you working on these days? I imagine that you've got lots of really cool creative stuff happening in your life. And as we chat, why don't I jump in and start working on stuff? So let's see what I can do here. There we go. I'm going to start off with a little warm up, as I usually do. What do I feel like doing today? I think some breathing stuff, maybe some drawing out my breath. Now, for folks, if you're familiar with what we do, if you've been a part of these live streams before, watched or listened, and it's okay to listen. It's okay not to make art while we're sharing space here. You can do whatever you need to do. So sometimes that might look like doing homework or washing dishes or folding laundry. Whatever feels right to you, go for it. Teresa is painting a mermaid. Oh, I love it. Oh my goodness. Can you share? I don't know if you want to or if you can right now. Who knows? Maybe it's a special gift for someone. But if you feel comfortable doing so, I'd love to see a picture of that after. Oh my goodness. Even if it's a work in progress. I love seeing work in progress pics. Yeah, so folks can listen. You can do other stuff. You can have us on in the background just to keep you company. If you can't stay for the whole hour and a half, that's okay too. You can drop in and drop out and stay for 5 minutes, listen for a few minutes, or stay the whole time if you want. You can come back and forth. That's okay. Whatever you need to get you through this day and to have your best day possible. So Teresa and mermaid, that's got me thinking. Let's say, how about I use blues and greens for today's drawing my breath. And I think I'm going to use my non-dominant hand here. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. So let's start with this. And all I'm going to do, if you're interested, if you'd like to warm up along with me, maybe you're all warmed up and ready to go and painting like Teresa, and that is awesome. But if you're starting, if you're feeling a bit I don't know, itchy and scratchy like I am, join in if you like. All I'm going to do is take this chalk pastel that I have here. You can use whatever materials you have on hand, pencil, pen, paint, uh, oil pastels, crayons, whatever works for you. And I'm going to let my breath be my guide in the lines that I draw and the shapes that I draw. I'm just going to let it happen. And Teresa asks, how do you post a picture here? Okay, so in the past, if you have a link to something, so you can share the link. If you have a photo on your phone that you can upload, sometimes in the comment section it shows a little image of like a little icon of a camera that allow you to upload a picture. If not, in the chat, what we do every time after we have a live stream every Wednesday, we do put up a little show and tell picture. So you're welcome to post the picture there if you like, because I think it's a little easier from what I've heard from folks than adding it right into the chat during the live stream. But I can't wait to see it. All right, let's do this. I'm going to use my non-dominant hand. So all that means is I'm right-handed, and today I'm going to use my left hand to create. And sometimes I find, okay, here goes. Sometimes I find that when I use my left hand or my non-dominant hand, it clicks into a different part of my brain, kind of gets around all of the stressy stuff that I might be dealing. And I find that I can create and just a little, like, it's easier to create. It's easier to let things happen, and that kind of silences my inner critic a little bit. And Shelly, hello, welcome Shelly. How are you doing? I'm okay. I'm just going to spend some time off the top drawing my breath. You're welcome to join me. And if other folks join and you see folks joining that I don't because I'm maybe caught up in an activity or something, please feel free to say hello to them and welcome folks. And if you're joining us after the live stream, once things have been archived, you're just as welcome as anyone else. Thank you for being here, and thank you for taking time for yourself to create and connect with whatever kind of energies you're working with today. So let's explore this again. Let's switch colors. That was nice. And Shelley saying, oh, Shelley welcoming everyone. I love that. I love our community so much. Now, I'm just going to follow that line a little bit, see what happens. Mm. This reminds me of tangle drawing that we used to do. It's a good way of letting stuff out, and then you can step back after it's done and have a look at it, see if anything jumps out at you. Not sure if anything's jumping out at this for me today. But there's definitely something very soothing and grounding about getting physical with your artwork and getting physical with your breath. I'm just seeing there in the comments. Let's see. Seeing how folks are doing. Shelley's feeling invisible. Interesting. What does invisible mean to you, Shelley? Because sometimes invisible can be a positive thing. Sometimes invisible can be one of those things we need to have some time for ourselves, space for ourselves. Sometimes invisible isn't so good, though. Sometimes invisible is, well, I can feel like a lot of different things. The thought that came into my head, too, when you were chatting about like that feeling invisible, I almost wanted to ask, so I'm just going to ask it, what does it look like? What does feeling invisible look like? I wonder if it has a presence. I wonder if it has more, if it takes up, perhaps if it has something to communicate to you. Do you ever do that? Do you ever talk with those feelings you're having, especially if they're not good feelings? I don't think I'm the only one who does that, right? But sometimes taking a moment to check in with that feeling, whether it's good or bad, to say, hey feeling, what do you want me to know? What would be useful for me to know right now about why you're here and why I'm experiencing you? Sometimes that can be helpful. I do that with my art as well. Sometimes I dialogue with my art and I'll just check in and I'll ask it, what's going on? Let's see. I like that. I like this. It's funny. It's interesting. If you have a monitor where you can look at your own artwork too, or even holding it up in front of a mirror, sometimes that's a really interesting way of getting close to your work or seeing things that you aren't able to see just when you look at it normally. And let's see, Shelley's saying messy art is the way I tend to deal. Yeah, sure. If messy art, letting it out. I think art and mess they're good friends. It's like letting the mess that might be in your head come out so it doesn't have to stay in your head. And every once in a while when you let the mess out, you find something that really takes your breath away in a good way. Somehow you transform whatever it is you might be feeling or going through in that moment because, things do change from moment to moment. Those feelings that we have will be different in a few minutes or, whether they're good or not so good. Now I've switched back to my dominant hand. Just happened. Let's see. Just highlighting some of the spaces in my breath where I was breathing. That's kind of nice to do sometimes. There's more space. There's more space for reflection or acceptance than we realize sometimes. Hey, Cur5. Now that's a name. And Nicole, hello, Nicole. How are you? And Barb, oh my goodness, I look away for 1 minute and all the lovely comments come in. Oh, so Barb says, hi, Mary, wonderful to be here again. Love your breath drawing. I'm counting to 4 as I inhale and draw, and counting to 4 as I exhale and draw. Breathing air on the page, giving it life. Barb, that's beautiful. Yes. Does anyone else do that? Anyone else have any breathing exercises that help them through that? Because sometimes it's good to give it that count, to kind of help train yourself back into a place of awareness with what's going on inside of you. And Nicole is saying, I write letters to myself if I'm feeling frustrated. Then I rip them up and throw them away. That's another great way. So instead of talking to it, you're still talking to it. You're just doing it in a letter form. And every once in a while, you can throw them away. Maybe you want to keep them and look over on them another day, have them as a reference somehow. But sometimes it just feels good to let it go, doesn't it, Nicole? Just to get it out, let it go, throw it away, out. It's gone. Don't have to deal with that anymore. And Shelley's saying it's been an emotional day. Received some extra cash, but feeling like I'm not doing anything for this money. Interesting. Okay, all right. So that's an interesting. That's a whole bunch of interesting feelings there. Sort of feeling like perhaps you're not. When I hear that, I wonder if you're feeling a little bit like you're not. What? You're not worthy of that? I mean, I'm not sure where the money has come from and how, you intend on using it. All I know is that there are times like when I have a very difficult time accepting, taking things in, allowing things, even if I need those things, even if I really need the help and I find the courage to ask for the help, it can still be hard to accept and to trust that I'm good enough. I'm worthy enough for that moment, for that gesture, for that experience. And feeling like you're not doing enough. Well, that's an interesting thing, isn't it? Again, I'm not in your space. I'm not experiencing what you're experiencing. But I'm feeling like you do a lot. I'm feeling like you do enough to make having that worthwhile. And chances are you're probably worth a bit more. This week is, I'm not sure if it's the week or the day. Some folks, if you listened to the live stream yesterday, spent a little bit of time talking about how this month is, December 3rd is the International Day of Awareness for people living with disability. Now, in like the lead up to this week, I've been posting different quotes from people who experience disabilities, who live with disabilities, who people who are differently abled. But it's not just, of course, the physical differences that we might experience. It's also non-apparent disabilities as well, and the things that necessarily that can get in our way, that make things more difficult, that make it more difficult to be not us, because we might be fine as we are. We are fine as we are. But it's difficult not to compare ourselves to other people at times. And oftentimes culture plays a large role in that. Because there's these assumptions about who we should be, how much we should be doing, to be worthy human beings. And the truth is, you are worthy. You are enough just as you are. And there are things that we all want to do. There's things we all strive for, of course. As long as you have that fire burning inside of you, that's what matters. And it has nothing to do with anyone else. I don't know if I'm making any sense right now. And Shelley's saying the inner critic, I think, is talking. Yeah. And Prin, hello, Prin. Waving right back at you. Welcome. How are you doing today? Yes, and this year, that's where that thought went. This year, for the International Day of Awareness for People Living with Disabilities, December 3rd, one of the themes that they're focusing on is, non-apparent disabilities or invisible disabilities. But I've been learning a lot from artists out there who are differently abled, and I like the phrase unapparent disability, and rather compared to invisible disabilities. Because it may not be apparent at first. But I think, invisible just conveys a different idea. And Prince says, that makes sense. And Nicole says, oh, well put. Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm just riffing here, folks. Every day I do a live stream, I come in not really knowing what I'm going to work on. I try and keep it that way because that's what the studio is like. I want to make space for the spontaneous because we're kind of missing a little bit of that in our lives right now. So I do it here with art making, but sometimes conversation as well. So that's an interesting conversation to have with ourselves today. What helps remind you that you are worthy? What helps remind you that you're awesome? What helps remind you that it's okay, not just okay to be you, whoever you are, but it's the best thing you can possibly be. In spite of what other people or culture, this weird culture we're a part of, sometimes tricks us into thinking. And you're absolutely right, Shelley, it is the inner critic, isn't it? So if you are having one of those days where the inner critic is being really loud, talk back to it. Say, hey, back off. And Shelley's saying, I think it is that I was outgoing till a few years ago. And cancer came into your life and leg issues. So I'm not as outgoing and have been off work, but feel like I should be working, but can't. Wow. Yeah. So inner critic is just poking at you there. Absolutely poking. Do you have a name for your inner critic, Shelley? Sometimes I find it helpful to name the inner critic or critics in my case. It makes it easier just to give it a name so you can talk back to it. Like if it was like George or something like that. You could just say, George, what do you want me to know about this? I know I'm going to have days where I wish I could do more because I want to do more. But I also have to love myself and be kind to myself because this is who I am. This is the only body I have. And if I don't accept myself for who I am right now, how will I ever expect, or can I ever ask anyone else to accept me? So George, I don't know. George, you might know a George that you really love. So I apologies to any Georges out there who might be listening. Nothing personal. So George, you can be helpful, George, by letting me feel what I need to feel. You can be helpful by reminding me of the things that bring me joy that I do and helping lift those things up. Just highlight those things, George. And if you can't, I'm going to kick you to the curb. Sorry. So, such a kind of, I just, sometimes I see these, like, I was part of a lovely workshop once where we made finger puppets of our inner critics. And I think that might be a workshop we do in the new year. But we're still waiting to hear on funding, but we'll see. And I just had this image of me kicking my inner critic puppet, just like a soccer ball, just like launching it into space. If that's a helpful thing for folks out there, to externalize your inner critic, give it a face or a shape or a name. I invite you to try it if you feel comfortable doing so. Sometimes it can, you never know when it'll, something will turn from being very difficult into something that makes you laugh. Because those critics, once you bring them down to size, they don't have to be that scary. And Momo is saying, oh, excellent. Momo is saying, Shelley, we have such a similar story. I even wanted to write a short story that I call How Cancer Made Me an Introvert Again, which is not a bad thing at all. Oh, excellent. Yes. So there's also strengths in those things that sometimes at first we appear as what? How would you say it, Shelley and Momo? Is it a weakness? Is it something that, the things that seem to hold us back at first? I mean, cancer sucks. There's no, it just does. There's nothing there I can make nice. But there is so much resiliency in being on that journey, moving forward, getting up and, greeting the sunlight, even if it's just for a few minutes every day. Nothing, nothing has to happen all at once. Yeah. There's more, there are so many stories you have to tell, but it doesn't have to happen all at once. There are so many things that you are doing and will do, but it doesn't have to happen all at once. And Nicole says, George will be the next astronaut. If I unintentionally kick George, my inner critic, out into space, and he ends up becoming a satellite, is that what you mean, George as satellite? Oh, well, at least there's some distance between us then, if that's the case, right? A little bit of distance. Perspective can be really helpful. Being able to stand back from the thing that's holding you back or holding you down or keeping you in that dark, difficult place. And it is just has, things shift all the time, right? I guess if George is in outer space as a satellite, it will shift because, yeah, he'll be moving around, so that's good. Yeah, that's a good distance, I think, but to have between your inner critic and yourself, a little bit of atmosphere. So I'm going to put my breath drying away, and then what am I going to do, folks? Let's see. I do kind of like that. Those colors, the green, the white, the blue, feels a bit fresh, feels a bit foresty, frosty, foresty. Yeah. And Momo, I do want to hear that story, because it sounds like it's not entirely an unhappy story. Yeah, not a bad thing at all. There are moments that stun us, that take us to our knees in life. And I'm always amazed by how people make use of that time to do what they need to do. So sometimes you're there for a while. Sometimes you just got to feel what you got to feel, and you got to do what you need to do to take care of yourself. And something like that. It's physically, spiritually, intellectually, the whole thing. But there's something astonishing in that ability to, I don't want to say get back up again, because that makes it feel like you have to get back up again. There are many different ways of rising up. How about that? There are many different ways of rising up with whatever we are dealing with or coping with. And it's not always about getting back up on your feet again. Some people aren't able to get back up on their feet, literally. So what is it then? It's about rising up somehow to feel what? I don't know. It's beautiful, beautiful things to think about, folks. Thank you for sharing that with me. Yeah. And Shelley says, I have been scrapbooking books for nieces and nephews. Oh, is that a gift for Christmas? That is a beautiful gift. Handmade gifts are the best. Always. At least in my mind. What am I going to do today? I know what I'm going to try. Let's try a little bit of piercing and stitching. And Shelley says, my cancer is not a bad thing. I'm on my second clean year and I will keep clearing the next 3 years. Good on you, Shelley. And Momo says, not an unhappy story as long as cancer stays away. Yeah. And Momo says, good questions, Mary. Oh, well, thank you for that. Sometimes I'm just, again, whatever comes into my head. And Shelley says, yes, the scrapbooks are gifts. I love that as an idea for a gift. Now, are your scrapbooks are they celebrating the past that you've shared together? Are they celebrating the future, what may be? Inquiring minds want to know. Before I do this, so I'm going to pierce this and I'm going to stitch this. I'd like to dry that, but first I'm going to paint. I feel like a little bit of painting. I haven't watercolored in a while, and I need to flow, folks. I need to flow. So if I was a paintbrush, where would I be? Let's try that one. Is anyone else out there making gifts? And maybe you can't talk about it here because it's public and you don't want to spoil the surprise for anyone. And Shelley says, yes, the past for most part with what you're scrapbooking for them. So celebrating your journeys. I imagine their lives. Maybe bookmarking things, marking things for them that they don't always have time to reflect upon or think upon. I certainly think when I was younger, I didn't necessarily take much time to reflect on my own life. I was too busy thinking about what I wanted for the future. But it depends on the ages of your nieces and nephews as well. That's a beautiful gift. In the future, they might come back to it and appreciate it so much more than you realize. And Nicole, let's see. Yes, so Barb says, a friend introduced me to genderbread instead of gingerbread. You make a gingerbread shape and then decorate it to depict your unique self. Interesting, Barb. I do like that. I feel like, have I always done that? I wonder. Yeah, my ginger people are always they're not always in people shape. And I feel like they're never exactly, well, they're not exactly what I've seen out there. They tend to go a little off-road, but that's okay. And let's say Nicole says, thanks for doing these live streams. They make me set a specific time to use my creativity, even if I don't feel creative. You know, Nicole, I feel the exact same way. And I think that's the main reason why I do these. Yeah. For you folks, you think I do these for you? No, of course I do. I love being here with you. But I think, just like everybody else, sometimes life will take over the things that, if I don't make time to create with intention, I find that all sorts of other things from life flow in, and they're just like, they fill in all that time. And that time is so precious. It goes away. I'm trying to live with more intention. I'm trying to introduce things into my life and maintain things in my life that help me feel good, that help me feel healthy, that help me feel connected, instead of getting caught up in the expectations that, I used to assume the rest of the world had of me. And again, so much of that are things that I decided. No one's explicitly told me that I have to do this, I should do this, you're not allowed to do that. I think I just kind of built those things out of my own anxieties and fears of not being enough, right? If only I do this, or if I keep doing this, everything will get better, or that thing I want will happen, or that's what success looks like. It'll happen when I do this. But if I look back over my life, it's mostly those times where I am really listening to myself, where I feel most motivated, most productive, most connected. So this time that I spent here is for the exact same purpose. I create. There are weeks where I don't create, and this is the only time I have to create. Yeah, I love being here with everyone. And I love the fact that I get to make art too. And Prin says, oh, excellent. I'm making eyeball baubles. So, okay, I've seen some of your awesome eyeball stickers. Are these like ornaments for trees? And second part of that question, can we order some online from you? Inquiring minds want to know. I'd love to see them. If you want to post pictures in the show and tell after the live stream at around like 3:30ish, please do. And if there's a link to where we can purchase them, I'd love that. I have a very eclectic tree for those folks out there who do trees. And there are so many handmade ornaments on that tree. And if we were at the studio right now, around this time of year is when we would be making ornaments for one another in ornament shares and things like that. So I'm missing a little bit of that, but that's okay. And Momo says, I love how this year is making making so inventive. Making people so inventive, even more than usual. Not making gifts, yet still thinking about it. I think I will bake cookies. Cookies make amazing gifts. A good old cookie swap, the best. Let's see. And Shelley says, my tree the last 2 years was honoring my family with a picture of each of them. Oh my gosh. How beautiful is that? That's just, wow. Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And Nicole says, I just finished a hat I've been working on. now you're wearing it. I like that. You're making something and using it right away. That's a very satisfying feeling. Part of that art of productivity, the practical things we create for one another. Being able to use what you create right away. Oh, that's such a good feeling. But the question of worthiness, I'm noticing, bro, like I know we all got holidays on the mind. We got creating for one another and gifts on the mind. But feel free to revisit that theme. And if folks are joining us right now, we asked kind of like we had a beautiful conversation and asked a question about what helps us feel, what reminds us that we are enough. What reminds you that you are enough? Do you have any creative practices or processes you like to go through that help remind you when you might be having a rough day? You know what? I am enough. This is enough. I'm good. I am an excellent human being. Because sometimes we need to remind ourselves. And it's okay to tell yourself you're an excellent human being, right? That's absolutely true. And I say that only because I know some folks like myself might come from families where you were taught that it's, to be proud of yourself or to boast or to say things like that to yourself isn't necessarily a good thing. And I'm not the boss of you. I'm nobody's boss. I'm barely my own. But it's okay. It's okay to remind yourself that you're an extraordinary being. You're an extraordinary being. You are an extraordinary being. And that's enough, right? All right. And Prince says, yeah, they are for trees. My only link is, that's right. Of course. Okay, Cur5 Instapage. That's right. So that's how I know you now, of course. Now I will link the two whenever I see you. And Facebook, Cur5 on Facebook, working on getting a fund for a website. I'll post some pics after for sure. Excellent. Yes, please. And keep us posted about the website. I think such an important thing. So many artists are going digital to sell their work, get what they're working on out there. Looks like we're going to be in this place for a little while longer. And I think, yeah, like Momo was saying, it's amazing how inventive everyone's become and how resilient and resourceful we've become. There's so many ways to connect and to share what we do, to shine a light on what we do. Let's see. All right. And Shelley's saying, seeing my two cats come rub up on my leg tells me I can look after things even when I don't feel like I am. Animal medicine, animal magic is the best in the world. Yeah. I think to be reminded of just how, important and essential you are in the world by a creature who is truly present because they have no reason to not be, that is an extraordinary gift in itself. And I know there are folks out there who can't have animals, or perhaps you're allergic, or just, lots of different things make it difficult for people to have pets these days. But again, there's nothing like that love. And laughter. If you have animals, you probably, my animals make me laugh all the time. They are just, yeah, I need that. I need that in my life. And Shelley says, I have two sleeping elves under your tree. Like, Elves? Like okay, we might need to see a picture of that in the show and tell. Let's see what I want to do here. Da, 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 da. Maybe I should do it from this side first. Okay. Nothing like winging it. And I have to thank you folks too, because when I'm here every week, this is the one time where I truly let myself just go for it and try things. It's a truly, it's a really relaxing, comforting space to create in. And I think I have you to thank for that, so thank you. Both cats are rescue cats, Shelley says. Yes, I have 4 rescue cats. I'm what they call a foster failure. And maybe I've talked about this before on a live stream, so I won't go into detail about it here in case I have in the past. But I want a pencil. Where's a pencil when you need it? I've got almost every other imaginable kind of creative supply around me. And all I really want is a pencil. Okay, I'll use some chalk. How about that? No. Oh, there's one. Found it. I conjured you. Yes, 4 rescue cats and 1 adopted dog. And they teach me beautiful things every day. Including how to be present, how to laugh, not take myself so seriously. Yeah, let's give that a go. So I'm going to take my awl here and I'm going to pierce through. If you want to do some paper stitching or paper sewing, you don't need an awl. I have this one because I use it for bookbinding and various things like that. It's a really sharp, pointy thing that helps make these nice little holes that you can sew through. But if you don't have one of these, you can use a needle, like a sewing needle. You can use a safety pin. Sometimes if you have one of those screwdrivers that has the multiple kind of interchangeable heads, there's usually an awl piece in there as well. It's a nifty little tool to have around. Oh, they're porcelain elves. Okay, Shelley, thank you. They're porcelain elves and they're hiding from Santa. The more I imagine that your nieces and nephews, the little people, the little children in your life must enjoy being around you. I myself am a weird aunt, and I wouldn't trade being a weird aunt for anything in the world. I own my weird auntness in all its glory. And it is an interesting time just thinking about, for folks, I know we have lots of folks listening and, from, I can say all over the world right now. And depending, I think we're all in different places with regards to COVID. We might be in different kinds of lockdown or restrictions or limitations on who we can see around the holidays and who we can't see. It is what it is, right? But I am excited about how we can get creative with that and make perhaps this season really interesting and have some fun with it. Safe fun. It might be shaking things up for us in just the right way and inviting us to be creative in new ways about how we engage and how we surprise one another, how we're there for one another. Let's see. And Momo's saying, what is that called? Oh, so Momo's asking the tool I'm using right now, the pointy thing. It is an awl. I think it's spelled how do I know? How is it spelled, Mary? AWL or AUL? I don't know. Oh, spelling not my forte, but does create. Oh, I have to go over some of those holes again to, like you'll see, kind of, let's see. Just creating those holes. Well, that's why, because I didn't start there yet. So it's a nice, it's a piercing tool. And there are different sizes you can find. I know they're used quite frequently in leather work and leather crafting. But I don't know if you can see there where the piercing is. Let's see if I can do a little close up. Can you see? Oh, there, maybe there. So can you see the piercing that's happening there? So it just creates those little like those little holes that allow you to stitch a little easier. And there's different kinds of, there's so many different scrapbooking tools right now that do the same thing. Oh, thank you, Nicole. Nicole bringing in the spelling, correct spelling, I should say. Brilliant. I know that in scrapbooking stores or sites or places you go to buy scrapbooking stuff, those magical places, you can buy little wheels, almost like, you know, those little ravioli cutting wheels? You can purchase wheels that have piercing patterns in them, which is really, really interesting. And I might have one around here somewhere, but oh, folks, if you could see this studio right now, it is a disaster. A mess. As we were talking about off the top, it is a creative mess. Yes. And that's just what it is. I'm not going to feel guilty about it. There will be time to tidy. There will be time to tidy. And I'm looking, let's see. I have some of this here. Maybe I'll use some of this thread. Do I have some white? Oh, that would be... Maybe I'll use some of this. So, where am I getting this thread from, you imagine? From the art mess that's all around me. There are days where I feel like I am in the studio. Absolutely. I still have it put away. We ended up bringing a lot of stuff home from the space, from the studio space, things that couldn't go into storage, as I've mentioned before. So the hope is that I will have time to organize all of those materials here, maybe even in this room. And that way I'll have them on hand all the time. Oh, I want to use this color. Oh, don't get tangled. Don't. There we are. Oh no. No, there we go. Oh, it's all good. All good. Yeah, I think so. Now let's see if I can find a needle. Yes, so hopefully I will have everything organized soon. And it will be easier to access everything. I think that's something I love. I love seeing people's creative spaces, having a little insight into where they work and how they work. There's a really great series. I can't remember which website did it a few years ago. Oh, interesting. Where they photographed different artist studios, working studios. So not fancy pants kind of, staging spaces, but where artists actually worked. And there was actually a really cool series in the UK called What Artists Do Every Day. That was lovely to watch. And it just followed, that series followed an artist, a working artist through their day. And you get a real sense of, what it's like to be a creative person in an industry that is kind of not secretive, but we don't know. It's not a typical 9-to-5 kind of situation. And when I see pictures of artist studios, it reminds me of that. Some artists love having mess around them. Some artists need to have everything out all the time. Maybe I'm one of those kind of creatives. And other artists have everything immaculately tidied. As soon as they're finished with it, as soon as their creative time is done, everything is cleaned. Maybe some artists have to do that. And Nicole's saying you don't want to go. Just on the note of spaces, Nicole says you don't want to go into my creative space. Lol. Yeah, I think there might be a lot of folks out here who are wondering, oh my gosh, what if? What if someone had to come into my creative space right now? Would I put it all in the closet, everything into the one closet that if you open the door would all fall out? Come on, I've got one of those. Maybe a couple drawers too, exploding drawers. But it's interesting to see how people work and what helps them work. It's not always what you'd expect. So what am I going to do here? I'm going to do a running stitch. So, and I might play with crisscrossing after as well. Oh, tangle, tangle. Hello, tangle. Oh, thank you. Now, tangle, where are you? I could probably use a smaller needle. This needle is actually making the piercings I made with the awl a little larger, but that's okay. You can also use awls in tin work. If Teresa is in the live stream, I know that Teresa has done some beautiful punch tin work before in the sort of Mexican tradition using an awl and other tools. But yes, returning to the creative space, it's always interesting to see where people work, how people work. It's nice to be reminded that there's not one path to being an artist. There's not one way of doing things. Each one of us has our own way of creating. Some of us can do, it's just a lovely thing. And let's see, Prince says, I'd like to say my space is structured chaos. That is lovely. Structured chaos. Yeah, that can work. And the thing is, it's just about you knowing where things are, right? It's you understand, you know where things are. That's what matters. That's what counts. And that's the structure within the chaos. I like to be reminded historically how artists that are celebrated have worked as well, which is a shame because we only have certain views of certain artists, mainly a lot of European white males. But that being said, I think it's a good reminder to check in to see how they work because we only see their product, right? We're so used to seeing what they've created, and it's hard to imagine the process of creating those pieces, that for some of those artists, those pieces took years, or they would go through periods of great, like intense production, and then perhaps months or years of not really producing anything, or like sort of gathering ideas, inspiration, working on themselves, taking care of themselves or their families or what have you. Some artists work for a few hours a day, and others work, like have put in place a 9 to 5 schedule that helps them. And hello, Laura. Laura says, not clutter. I just have ideas lying around. Oh my goodness, folks. Oh, I'm really loving this. Yes, please tell me what you call your creative mess. I'm really loving all of these, and I will be able to use them in my conversations with my significant other. I say, hey, no, they're just ideas. They're ideas lying around. I'll get to them, don't worry. Anthony Granny is actually very, very kind and compassionate and supportive of everything I do. Yeah, it's a lovely thing to have someone who is such a champion. Let's see. And Momo says, my studio, formerly known as my dining room, yep, fluctuates between tidy to messy. Lol. When it gets too messy, too messy, it interferes with my creativity. Yeah, you're right. And I think I'm just on the cusp of that right now with this space as I look around. I'm thinking, if it gets any more unruly, if it gets any more piled up, heaped up, it's time to have an organization. bring back a little more of the structure into the chaos for sure, because it gets in the way sometimes as well. So Momo, oh nice. Momo just took a picture of my studio. Can't wait to share it with you all. Oh, that's lovely. Oh, and that's an interesting challenge. Who feels like they want to share a picture of their creative space? Or even a portion of it. No pressure at all. But if, like Momo, you'd like to, or you feel called to share a little picture of where you work every day, where you do your creative work every day, feel free. Because it's not always, when we talk about what a studio is, oftentimes, especially these days, it's not the typical artist studio. It is a coffee table. It is a dining room table. It is a kitchen counter. I always seem to have a jar of paintbrushes on the windowsill in my kitchen. I don't know why. They just ended up there, and I know they're there, and now I can go and grab one whenever I need one. And let's see here. And Teresa says, I need to go back to the tin punch. I didn't remember. Oh, interesting. Well, I'm glad I reminded you. I've seen some of your tin punch work, Teresa. It's beautiful. It's really, really gorgeous. And Momo saying, Marguerite? Oh, Marguerite says, join our conversation on art making on FB. Our host is Mary. Mary is, oh, wonderful. Am I a wonderful host? Oh my goodness. I don't know about that. I am comfortable with being silly. I think that's one thing over time that I've become. If it could be a special skill on a resume, it would be there. It would be there. I spent a long time in my life learning how to become comfortable with my awkward or my weird. Or someone like Felicia Day might say, my weirdness, own my weirdness. I've begun to fall in love with my flaws. I've begun to fall in love with the things that I used to worry about and used to try and correct. Over time, part of the journey has just been embracing them and listening to them the same way I might engage with an inner critic. I think that's something we might not spend a lot of time doing or enough time doing, is engaging with that other part of ourselves, talking with the part that we like, the things we like about ourselves. How often do we engage with those parts of ourselves? I wonder. And Momo says, unruly. I love that. Unruly, indeed. Nicole says, my structure is... Your structure in the chaos. Nicole's structure is the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Oh, and Prince says you're up for that. So perhaps sharing photos of your creative spaces or where your workspace is. I love it. And I think, too, to normalize, people don't really understand, do they? If you're not an artist, if you haven't embraced creativity as a part of your, sort of accepting it as a part of your human birthright, it might seem like something that is a luxury or what, an afterthought, and that's part of the problem, because I think, well, who am I to say? But I think, well, I have been there in certain times of my life where I've said, well, when I have time, later, I'll make art later. I will do that thing that I really feel called to do later, once everything else is done, because it's not essential. But it is essential. At least for me it is. It's spending time getting to know something, getting to tune in to that voice, that inner voice, the part of myself that I like, the opposite of the critic, whatever that is, the part of myself that likes me. So what do we call that, folks? If it's not an inner critic, what is that? I don't know. And Momo says, silly is wonderful. We need more silly. I always love, a good fool. I think that's one of the things I love about Shakespeare. Shakespeare's fools are always interesting characters. The fool's always, not that I'm this kind of fool. I wish I was, and maybe I'm on my way. But the fool who knows what's really going on. The fool who observes. The fool who The wise fool, I suppose. Maybe I'm on my way. I don't know. Oh, let's see. And Marguerite saying, how can you write and art at the same time? How can you write and art at the same time? Interesting. Writing to me is an art. So if writing is something that you want to do right now, go for it, folks. That's it. Like when we talk about art here, making art, being creative, I think oftentimes people think of art as visual art, and it doesn't always need to be that. I think the art of conversation is something that's out there. Part of my creative satisfaction and wellness comes from having these kind of conversations and engaging with people, right? Connecting and creating opportunities for new ideas to emerge or important, meaningful thoughts to be shared, whatever that looks like. So yeah, that's the art. You know, there's lots of different kinds of art. I think for the purposes of these hives that we have together, art can be anything. And you don't need to do more than one thing at the same time. That's why if folks are out there and you're listening and you are enjoying it, but you're not participating in the chat, that's totally okay. You don't need to participate in the chat. I'm happy that you're here. And welcome to everyone who's joining the live stream. Again, having some interesting conversations about creativity and inner critics and embracing ourselves, all of ourselves, even the wonky bits that we're not too fond of. Oh, and Jennifer, hello, Jen, how you doing? Jen says, oh, you like what I'm doing? She said, oh, cool, Mary. The stitching, the paper piercing. Yeah, I want to play with that a little bit more. And Shelly says, busy creating taco burgers for a late lunch. Go for it. Food is important. Nurture yourself, Shelly. And Shelly's saying, the craft room is my creative space, but table is my snow village right now. Interesting. That's the time of year as well. We end up putting up things that take up more of our space. But if that snow village gives you joy, then hey, that's informing that creativity as well, right? What do I want to do here? And so true, says Laura Brown. Some people just don't get it. I really use that stuff or know someone who can. Oh, which stuff? Which stuff, Laura? Did I miss something? I might have. Sometimes that happens. If you're out there and you're chatting, and I don't get your comment, or I maybe don't see your question or comment right away, just feel free to message me again, because sometimes I might be like looking away, working on what I'm doing, and sometimes the Facebook live stream just does these interesting things, and I just might not see it until after the fact, and I don't know why. Just a little gremlin in the system. And Jennifer's saying, Shakespeare is awesome. I want to read Midsummer Night's Dream. Ooh, yeah. That's a really interesting play. Prince says, like Puck in A Midsummer Night's Dream. Yeah, right? They're always, those brilliant, beautiful fools are all around us. We don't always give them the credit that they deserve. And maybe that's part of it. Maybe one of the things that makes that kind of fool, that beautiful fool, a fool, is that they don't seek credit. I don't know. That makes me want to have some friends of mine on who work in Shakespeare more frequently than I do. Perhaps I sit on the board of a theater company called Driftwood Theater Company, and they are a touring Shakespeare company. Of course, this year has not been the best year for theaters, wherever you are in the world. They're really having to get creative and hitting some interesting times. But if folks are interested in some Shakespeare talk, perhaps I'll ask Jared to do one of the Instagram live streams with me, because I think that might be fun. Yeah. And Momo welcoming people. I love when I see community members welcome other community members. How lovely is that? That makes me feel like we're all in this together. Aw. And yeah, Momo asking Marguerite what you're working on. If you'd like to share, folks, you can. And after the live stream, we always post a kind of like a show and tell post that's separate from this, where you can upload links to perhaps websites or Tumblrs where you work, or websites where maybe you're selling the creative things you're creating, or just post pictures of what you're working on. Or today, part of the theme has been our creative spaces and what they look like. And yeah, I'm beginning to get excited to see where people are working. And maybe I'll share a picture too. Maybe I will. Maybe I will. And Prince says, it's a brilliant play. Yep, one of my faves. Midsummer Night's Dream is lovely. I've never done that show before. Would folks, here's a question too. Would folks be interested in the future if we had opportunities to do readings of plays? Like if we were to have a Zoom or a Facebook room or something where we kind of just got together virtually and kind of like gave each other roles to play and just read plays together. Would folks be interested in that? Let me know if you are. Because I'm certainly missing a bit of that these days. It could be kind of fun. And Marguerite saying, talking I understand, but chat and make art at the... Yeah, it's hard to chat and make art at the same time. I think I understand then. So like typing in your questions or comments and making art, that's okay. You don't need to do both at the same time. If all you want to do is listen and create or watch and not create, you could be doing something else. That's okay too. It's all right. Whatever works for you. And I know sometimes for anyone else out there who might be visiting for the first time, it can be a little overwhelming. I remember it used to be the same even in the studio sometimes, that when people would come into the living room space, it would be a little overwhelming. It's not an unusual feeling, and it's okay if you are feeling that, even just like being here in the virtual space. That's okay too. Nothing wrong with that. I'd only invite you to take time to be gentle with yourself and know that it's okay to, sit through that feeling, work through that feeling. And if today isn't the right day to be here, of course that's okay too. We'll be back another day. We're here every Wednesday. Although I will be taking a couple weeks off around the holidays. Oh, I've got an interesting knot happening here. How did this knot happen? How did this happen? Well, we'll find out. And let's see. Momo says, joy informs creativity. Awesome. That's nice. Where did that come from? That's amazing. I'm loving that. Oh, the clutter stuff, Laura says. Okay, so the question I asked a while ago now. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, clutter. Some people just don't get it. And that you actually use... Yeah, so we're talking about the supplies that are around us. I get it now, Laura. I get it. The fact that what might look like junk or clutter to another person is actually the thing we need to do our creative work. The thing that's important or essential to us. Yeah. Yeah, not everyone is going to understand that, unfortunately. Let's see. And I think that's partly, maybe, again, it goes back to the idea, like, we don't really know what artists do because it's so, it can be so unique, right? And so, it's such a personal thing. Yeah, maybe I'll stop there. Let me add a different color. And Nicole says, I got an ebook out of the library that allows you to make a bunch of stuffed literary characters. I've made Sherlock Holmes. Nicole, I would really love to see that. If you want to share it, that is. I know that you've made all sorts of interesting characters before. You did, I think you crocheted the entire cast of Schitt's Creek and sent them to them, didn't you? I remember they posted pictures with the versions of their characters, if I'm remembering correctly. You have a real gift for that. And Momo encouraging me to share a pic. You dared me to share. Okay, I'm in. And Momo says yes to readings. I love readings. I will be a listener. Your accent does not suck. There's an hello inner critic. Your accent does not suck. Your accent is, again, who am I? Your accent is beautiful, but that's just what I think. But you're welcome to listen if you don't want to participate. That's okay. And Barb says, I'm working on my gratitude advent calendar. Excellent. Very grateful for the living room community. A gratitude advent calendar. I've been seeing a few of these. I'd love to learn more about what yours looks like. Um, and I know that in the future we have, like, there's so many interesting projects, creative projects we can do around the theme of gratitude as well. Like simple, beautiful things like gratitude jars for the new year. But an advent calendar, yeah, I'd love to see what that looks like. And if other folks are working on their own versions of that, yes, please, let's share. And yeah, Jen says, Teresa. Teresa, oh, you got a Cricut machine. Teresa bought a Cricut and I'm learning. I want to use it to make gifts for my family. Do I know how to use it? No, I have a friend who has one and they can do really cool things with it. We have the laser engraver that we had at the studio is now in our basement, which we will be getting set up this weekend. But I don't know how to use a Cricut. But I imagine there are plenty of amazing tutorials online that you can find on YouTube. So I definitely encourage going to connect with some other Cricut users because I think it's one of those things. Once you get the hang of it, it's really amazing. Yeah. And Jen says I'd be down for plays. Excellent, good to know. And Teresa about reading. Another question about accent. Wow. So here's the thing, folks. Accents are brilliant. This is another area of difference that is perhaps we have yet to talk about, but I embrace that. And I embrace dialect. I embrace accent. I have an accent. It just doesn't seem like it to me. But if I decenter myself for a moment and consider that, I have a huge accent. And everyone has an accent. So I invite you to consider, like, to throw away that if it's a barrier or an obstacle. There might be other reasons why you don't want to read or participate in a reading, and that's okay. But an accent or a dialect shouldn't be one of those things. In fact, it can make readings that much more interesting. Oh. And Prince says that's a great idea. I'd be up for that. Can we do excerpts out of favorite books and comics? Yes, absolutely. So not only plays, yeah, let's bring it. Let's have poetry, comic books, graphic novels, all of the things. Let's have beautiful, lovely little readings with one another. Oh, I'm getting excited. Okay. Oh, yeah, lovely. This is exciting. Okay, so again, I'm not sure if anything will happen before the new year. That's just me trying to manage time and take care of myself. But that's a fantastic idea. Let's do it. Okay. And Momo says, oh, interesting. Momo says, Teresa, I'm in the same boat. I'll be too shy to read in English. All right, I'm hoping I'm catching up on all the fabulous conversation. But again, dialects and accents are beautiful. Yeah, they're just beautiful and interesting. That's the other part. So please don't let that be a barrier for you. And we will endeavor to create the same kind of space where all of those things are welcome. And for people who maybe don't feel as confident reading out loud, that's okay too. Just like at the living room space, there's no perfection allowed. No perfection allowed. So let yourself do what you like. Let your voice do what you need to do. Yeah, just let it be. It's okay. You are enough just as you are. And let's see. Oh, it came from, so Prince saying, wow, Teresa, I've been looking at a Cricut. I think I'll stick my usual way of making my stickers. I know, it's tempting. The Cricut is such a cool machine. I've been tempted a couple times as well, but I think, yeah, nothing wrong with a pair of scissors or, working with an X-Acto knife if you want to get more detailed about stuff. Oh, what's happening here? Oh, tangled. See, that's what happens to me when I chat and make art at the same time. Tangles. I'll just let that be. And Momo's reminding me the joy and, oh, that came from me. Interesting. Interesting. Just never know the things that come out of my mouth. And it probably came from someone else before that. So Momo says, oh, the wonderful things you say while you art. Someone should be taking notes. Well, we'll see. I always enjoy being reminded of things. If things, the same as like I always say at the beginning, if I've said things or do things that unintentionally, or sometimes, I get intentional with stuff without realizing the things that I say that cross boundaries or press buttons or stir things up for people. I always want to know about those things because I want to human better. I want to be a better human, and I want to human as a verb more effectively, and I want to be more supportive of people. So I always invite people to let me know if I've done something that just, has kind of hit them the wrong way. I want to learn how I can do things differently. But I often don't check in about the positive things, right? Again, that seems to be another theme of today too, at least for me. Those positive things, taking time to get to know those things as much as everything else. And Nicole says, it's called, oh, interesting. It's called Literary Yarns. So this is the book that Nicole used to create the stuffed Sherlock. It's called Literary Yarns by Cindy Wang. I couldn't send the cast to the actors, or the cast to the actors, unfortunately. I think when you're making things for big productions, it's better they provide places to send them because you can't send them directly to the actors. But I love that you did that, though. I love that you did that. And Jen says, oh, Schitt's Creek is my fave show, too. Eugene Levy is my spirit animal, LMAO. Hey, just a heads up on the spirit animal thing, Jen. It's a little bit of a cultural appropriation there. Just a heads up to anyone. I've used to use that term all the time until I realized that spirit animals are actually very important in various indigenous cultures around the world. So when I would use it very lightly about things that were not very serious at all, it's not necessarily a good thing. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I was actually hurting people when I use terms like that. Very strange. Not throwing any shade. It's just a moment of education for everyone. I'm not sure if folks are aware of that, but it's always a good time to talk about it, because I think some things become a part of our culture and our cultural conversations so much so that we don't know where they came from. We don't know what their origins are. But that one I recently discovered, and actually I think it was Lizzo who pointed it out to me. So thank you. Thank you, Lizzo. I've tried to stop saying that, using it casually to refer to things I love. I wonder what we can say instead. If anyone has any ideas, let me know. Because I do know what you're saying. There's something about Eugene Levy, Dan Levy, that family, Dan Levy in particular, for me, it's like, what a champion. There were moments in that show. Whew. And I have to say, Nicole was trying to get me to watch it forever, and I only started binge watching it once it came on Netflix this past year. So it took me a while to get into that show. But if for folks who haven't watched it yet, I highly recommend it. It's a beautiful thing. And yes, lots of good supportive. So Prince saying there are many amazing videos about the cricket out there, and Momo is sending out a woohoo for poetry. Well, for all of it, yes, definitely manage time. And Prince says, I'm not a good reader and dyslexic, but I'll definitely give it a go. Accents are bloody awesome. Embrace it. I say so too, folks. I say so too. Life, if we just stuck to the things that are expected, and I think that's a big problem with Shakespeare too, it's sort of stuck. We imagine it as one thing when it can be so many other things. And I'm like, what if we found ways to relate to these things in ways that were meaningful to us, which includes culture, which includes race, ethnicity, class, all of these things, right? Time for some new conversations around the classics. And Nicole says, one of my friends shared a book advent calendar. There's a prompt for every day. Oh, nice. And you share your favorite lines and book titles every day. Yesterday was iconic first lines. That sounds amazing. Oh, and Carlos, welcome, Carlos. I feel like I'm really behind on the conversation today, which is kind of cool. Carlos saying, hello, howdy, you brilliant humans. Loving this art piece. Aw, oh, thank you. I am having fun winging it. Yeah. I am indeed. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it afterwards. Well, we'll see, won't we? And Carlos says, yes, Schitt's Creek is amazing. Amazing, shall I say. Oh, yes, and please keep any responses spoiler-free, as I'm still working my way through. I'm on season 5. You were right with the suggestion, Mary. It's so wholesome. It does feel like the thing I love about that show, it is just a hate-free space, if I could say that. It is not, it doesn't avoid difficult conversations or subjects, but it does it with absolute love and compassion and with no shame for anyone. Oh, and Jen saying, sorry about that. I'm glad you taught me this. I'm glad I learned it. So I think we both have to thank Lizzo. Maybe we'll both, send a little hello and thank you out to Lizzo afterwards. But again, it's one of those things that you wouldn't necessarily know. And just, the cultural appropriation and the sort of inappropriate use of terms like, casually, like things like so and so is my spirit animal. It's funny. It also, what I love that it's giving me an opportunity to learn about Indigenous culture in a new way. Every time I stumble over something, and I stumble over stuff all the time, it's really an opportunity to learn and to seek out, just to grow. And there's so much we don't know, at least for here, like, speaking for myself as a Canadian living in Ontario, living in a city that is named Oshawa. There's so much stuff I never learned in school, and it's left up to us, folks. We have opportunities to teach ourselves and seek out these teachings so that we can be better humans, and that's awesome. So mistakes and those stumbles, as horrible and awkward as they can be sometimes, they're always opportunities. They're opportunities to learn, to grow, to become better. And my world always opens up in new and exciting ways after I learn something like that. So yeah, there we go. So thanks, Jen. Thanks for acknowledging that and opening up that opportunity for a conversation. And Carlos says interesting. I was kindly challenged when using the term spirit animal too, as I didn't know. It was enlightening and appreciated. I've started using the term that's my heart piece as a representation that makes up for like a fraction of the larger parts of my heart. If that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, I like it. So instead of using the term spirit animal, saying that's my heart piece. Ooh, it's a piece of my heart. That's my heart's place. That's my heart's. Oh, I'm really loving this. I love that exploration. And Michelle saying hello. Hello, Michelle. How are you? Oh, it's been so long since I've connected with some folks out there. It's so great to be with everyone today. And as we approach it's 3:25, and I feel like I could continue this conversation. But I'm just so grateful for everyone who's dropping by to say hello. And Momo saying, hate-free spaces. We never have enough of those. Yeah. Thanks for the recommendation. And hello, Michelle. There you go. People saying hello. And Wendy. Hello, Wendy. How are you? That's so lovely. So lovely that folks are joining today. So there's been so many conversations. There have been, we've been talking about the inner critic and challenging that, of course, it always comes up, but in a very compassionate and self-loving way, knowing that we are enough, knowing that everything we do and every day is enough. And as long as we're curious and compassionate towards ourselves and seeking, everything will probably work out as best as it possibly can. So finding that space to love ourselves is so important. And, Michelle saying, happy December, everyone. I hope this last month brings warmth for everyone despite everything going on. I know. You know what? I reflect that comment back out at everybody again. Michelle, thank you for that. Such a beautiful thing. Light and warmth in this season, especially I'll, gobble up every little bit of light that I can. And I've surrounded myself in my other, like my downstairs space is there. Like I have lights everywhere. I've pulled out all the fairy lights. I've got candles. I've, just that beautiful, anything I can do to suggest warmth and connection and brightness, a reminder that that's still waiting for us. It's still here. Um, yeah. And definitely, again, if folks are looking for something to watch, if you have the Netflix, Schitt's Creek is a lovely kind of beautiful, shame-free, hate-free show that is uplifting in many, many ways. No spoilers though, because Carlos is still on season 5. But if you're looking for something to watch that will just stir up, like it's funny, it's sad, it's beautiful, it's everything. Not getting paid for this endorsement. It's just a beautiful show, and the rest of the world knows it. I'm only catching up now, but it is a lovely place to go if you need a little break on the television. And Momo saying, "Oh, lovely piece of work. Do you mind to explain how did you manage not to get any thread in the back of it?" Oh, but I did, Momo. I did. So that is the back. So this is what I'm going to do. Maybe I can do this. So the front, like this. Yes. And the back is like this. So what I'm thinking of doing with this piece, I will tie off the threads, and then I think I'll take another piece of paper to glue on top of that, maybe in a heart shape as well. And I might use this as one of the little cards I want to send out for people this year. A little bit of texture, a little bit of color, a little bit of warmth, but definitely lots of string, lots of threads on the back. You can't do stitching or any kind of embroidery with having that its own kind of creative mess. Oh, creative mess. Oh, and Carlos noticing my nail color matches the color of my art piece. It wasn't planned. I promise. And Shelley's saying Shelley's doing so many crafts. Shelley's running out of supplies. Oh no. Well, here's the thing. I invite you to get creative with the kind of supplies you use. Mix it up a little bit. Find something in your house, perhaps, that isn't a traditional art supply. Maybe old cereal boxes or, who knows, toilet tissue rolls. And see what you can do with those kind of things. What about newsprint? And we were just mailed or delivered a Yellow Pages, a very tiny Yellow Pages, but I don't use Yellow Pages anymore, and I can't imagine why I would have one around. So I think what I'm going to use it for is some collage. What is it called? You dip the newspaper in the glue, and why can't I remember what it is right now? I don't know, but I think I'm going to get creative with some of the materials that I have lying around my house. So if you find yourself in one of those moments where you're like, I'm out of art supplies, why not challenge yourself and play with what's around you? And oh, Momo says that is not that much at all with the stitching in the back. I just used a running stitch trying to keep to the outsides, I suppose. Oh, maybe I'll have to do, you know what? I have some weaving. Maybe I'll do some weaving tutorial pieces as well. Put that on the list of things to do. But play. I think it would look equally interesting if the back was as crisscrossy as the front. I do like, there's everything has its own kind of beauty, and just experiment and play. And if you're looking forward to if you'd like to try paper piercing and stitching, the best way to go about it is just to dive in, really, and experiment yourself and see what happens when you use different kind of stitches, when you crisscross in different ways. It's one of those things where hand feel really comes into play. You'll get a sense of what feels right to you, and you never know, you might have some happy accidents that become the thing you love the most about what you're working on. And let's see. And Teresa's saying they have awls, this lovely sharp little tool here that pierces. They have awls at the Dollar Tree. They do? What? Oh, that's good to know. So folks, if you have a Dollar Tree near you, they have little piercy pokey things there that you can use in your own paper piercing or book binding. And Shelley has made art with all the supplies around her. Excellent. Paper mache. paper mache. Thank you, Momo. I can't, yep. Sometimes one's brain just gets so full, you don't know what to do with it. You just got to let it kind of overflow a little bit and drip out. Trust that someone else will catch it. And thank you, Momo. Paper mache. And Shelley says, sad I missed picking up supplies from the living room, but I have lots of paper, I guess, and I will stop crafting and just, yeah, you can journal and draw. Transferring it into other areas of creativity. If you've been crafting for a while, yeah, shake it up and try something completely different. And Marguerite says, oh no, sharing on the mess. Could be too contagious. You know what? If you ever feel like, just like anything else, if we're posting, so folks who might have joined a little bit later in the stream, we've also been talking about creative mess today and everything that comes along with that, from letting out the mess that's inside of you into the art that you're doing so you don't have to hold that kind of stuff inside, you know, letting the art hold the hard stuff. But we also talked about the creative mess that might be around us in our creative spaces. And I think some folks, and I've been challenged by Momo to share an image of my messy creative space, so I will. We're going to post those pictures in the show and tell after the chat, so please feel free to not only share pictures or links to what you're working on, what you have created in the past, what perhaps things that you've written or songs that you've written, like you can share all of that in the show and tell piece, but you can also share images of your creative spaces, because not all artists work in the same ways. Not all of us are, you know, privileged enough to have a whole space that is dedicated to the creative work that we do. So yeah, let's share some images if you're feeling comfortable with that. Oh, and yes, please share links, images, whatever feels right to you. And perhaps you might even have some other stuff that maybe it's not yours, maybe it's just for inspiration. Whatever feels right. There we go. Oh, letting the art hold the art by Mary. You know what? These are all things I need to acknowledge, like any artist, like all, what is that saying? I think it's by one of those, all great artists steal, yes? Or all artists steal, because I think we're all great artists. But everything that I bring to these chats has come from other wonderful creative people that I've had the privilege of engaging with or learning from in the past. I am not, like, I am my own unique, awesome brand of weird that I'm coming to love day by day. But so many of the things that I share, so much of who I am has come from other people in my life who have walked the path ahead of me and been kind enough sometimes to even walk alongside me on the journey. So I want to take a moment to acknowledge that. And you know what? A lot of you are here in this conversation. Everyone who's here, I learn from every time we have a chance to connect and create with one another. And every time I meet someone new or know that someone new is out there watching or listening, even if it's not during the live stream, thank you for that, because you're contributing to my growth too as a creative human, and I appreciate that more than you know. So thank you to everyone who has shared with me, taught me, talked with me, created with me, all of those things. I appreciate that, and I look forward to doing much, much more of it in the new year. And yes, oh, beautiful. And let's see, Momo saying we are all standing on the shoulders of one another, or on the shoulders of our ancestors. Yeah. Yeah. And that's a beautiful thing to reflect on sometimes. Indeed. Yeah. So perhaps I might go and journal on that for a little while after I wrap up this live stream. Oh, yes. And a nap. Shelley's saying, feeling sad, thinking I'm going for a nap. Napping is always a good idea. So maybe after my journaling, I'll have a nap too. And just let some beautiful, sweet dream time help carry me to the next part of my day. So, oh, yeah, let the crying out. And I'm hopefully going to be releasing some new stickers to the world soon too. And I'm interested in letting people know. I know I've talked before about the Public Crying League. I think what it's turning into now is the Free Crying Society. So definitely, if you need to have a cry as well as a nap, let it out. Let those tears carry you to the next place, or release all those delicious serotonin bits and pieces into your system. Crying is a beautiful thing. Napping, crying, journaling, all of those things are good. Making art, connecting, lovely. And Teresa says, when somebody tells me that I'm weird, I feel happy. Yeah. Yeah. It's a journey learning how to accept that, but I feel happy too when people say how weird I am. And Carlos saying, my cats nap a lot and seem to do well with it. So if that's what folks need to do, then that's cool. Napping is kitty endorsed. There we have it, folks. All those lovely little bits and pieces about how to take care of ourselves and how to listen to ourselves. I honor everyone who's out there doing what they need to do to listen to themselves, to really hear themselves, and take care of themselves in today's live stream and after. You do you. And again, if you need help or support, reach out to those folks who can be there for you, who can help, shift one thing into another if that's what you need. Folks, thank you so much for being here and creating with me. I've appreciated it so, so much. And I suppose, until we can create and connect with one another again in person, I'm looking forward till we can connect and create with one another online once again. So thank you for being here. Thank you for everything that you do. Stay safe, take care of yourselves, and don't stop creating. Mwah! I'll see you soon. Bye, everybody.